What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Behind the Brew. I am your host, MMTV, and I'm here with my co-host, Steve Lockhart of Lockhart's Authentic. And today we're welcoming Joe Andrews, aka Blumaan, to the show for his first ever podcast. Joe, my old friend, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you. And like you just said, it is my first podcast, but I'm excited to be here doing it with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited.
We'll take it easy on you. We'll take it easy on you, buddy.
Steven, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful. It's Christmas time. Everything's all holly and jolly, so things are great. I'm excited. I'm excited to have Joe on here. It's been a while, man.
It has been a minute. Yeah.
I forgot you guys have actually met before.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. Joe kicked my ass in ping pong years ago.
Oh, how long ago was that?
I think I put up a pretty good fight though. When would that have been? Oh, it was right around the time you guys were making Fifth Sample. When did you guys launch that?
I want to say it feels like it must have been like 6 or 7 years.
Oh my God!
Actually, I was still living in the UK, so I was just in the States for that project.
That's right. That's right.
So it was probably close to 7 years ago.
Holy cow!
That was a fun project. Though. I remember that
flying.
project.
Time is flying.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any better at ping pong?
I think I've improved. Next time you visit, we'll put my skills to the test.
Yeah, we'll run it back.
Speaking of ping pong, one of the you know those games you play where you tell somebody like weird facts about yourself. One of my go-tos is the fact that I have played ping pong with my wife on Prince's ping pong table at Prince's house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the weirdest random fact.
So you're an expert then?
No, I was terrible, but I got to play. Prince apparently loved ping pong and had one in his studio where he recorded music, and he had his own like custom paddles and everything. And so me and my wife duked it out right there, ping pong on in Prince's recording studio at his house.
What were you doing over there?
Taking a tour. Yeah, we were touring his house. Yeah, it's like the Paisley Park is amazing. It's like it's in the middle of just. It's in the middle of a small town. You just drive in. There's like a gas station, there's a grocery store, and you look to your left, and there's Prince's house. It's really like that. It's like going to Willy Wonka's factory. It just looks so like plain on the outside, but inside it's just Prince everything. It's insane. It's really cool.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's a pretty good fact.
Yeah. I always think so.
Very interesting.
Anyway,
hey, enough about us. Let's get into. We need to know more about Joe.
Yeah, I thought we should start at the very beginning because obviously I've known you for quite a while. Steve's known you for quite a while. The audience has known you for quite a while. But I've always said if I could ever get you on the podcast, I was going to ask you this question about your childhood because I know you had a very interesting upbringing. So I thought maybe we would start there.
Okay, just from the very beginning.
Sure, wherever you feel like starting.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story because, what I do now seems so, I guess, different or counterintuitive to the lifestyle I grew up in. The career path that I'm on now doesn't really make sense with the past that I've had. But yeah, so I mean, for most of my early life up until 19 years old, I grew up in different places in Africa. The exception being from ages 4 to 9, I was in the U.S. But other than that, I was in different countries. I come from a missionary family, so my dad basically, his job was moving him around all over the place. He used to work for this company called World Vision, and he was the CEO or COO of World Vision East Africa for a good amount of time. Later on, anyway, so. There was a lot of different countries that we moved in. I can't even remember probably most of them. But I was born in South Africa only because that was the closest place that had a decent hospital to the country that we were living in. So I was in South Africa for a total of about 10 days, from birth to 10 days old. And then we went back to wherever we were living at that time. So a lot of people also, a lot of people who don't know or know very little about Africa just assume that I'm from South Africa. When I say I grew up in Africa, they say, "Oh, South Africa." It's like, yes, but not really. Like that's where I was born, but it's not where I'm from. And
you only spent the first 10 days of your life there. Did you live there for any period after that?
No, literally
Oh, wow.
first 10 days, and that's it.
That hardly counts then.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Again, it was the place to get born because they had a good hospital and that was it.
Is that
Where'd you
organization?
spend?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, where'd you spend the most of your time while you were growing up in Africa?
So the two places that I remember the most was in my middle school and high school years, and that was Kenya and Tanzania. So I was in Kenya for 5 years, kind of middle school, early high school, and then we moved to Tanzania, which is a bordering country. So it's a long drive, but we you can drive it. Um, and then I finished high school in Tanzania. So in Kenya, I was in an American system high school. Both of these schools were international schools, but the Kenyan one was American system, and then the Tanzanian one where I finished high school was a British system. Um, so I graduated from a British system high school, and then that led me to the UK, where I was for the next 5 years after that.
Wow. That is that's quite a little, put it on the map and try to follow it around. It's kind of quite the
Yeah,
story.
it's complicated for me too. Like I can't really remember my own, you know, background that well.
Is that
As
organization
a child, though, I guess what did you do for fun in Kenya or Tanzania or wherever you want to start?
Well, it's always back when, I grew up there and then I would come to the US and meet family or friends or whatever. They would always ask like, "Hey, how is it growing up in Africa?" And that's all I knew, right? So I'm like, "Well, it feels normal." Like that's the life that I lived. And so it's always hard for me to answer that kind of a question without the context of living, in different countries. But now I have a little bit more of that context and can kind of reflect back to what growing up in Africa was actually like. And it's just, much more, there's a much greater sense of like freedom and lack of like regulation, I guess, in terms of whether it's like, health and safety, whether, don't get too close to the cliff. Don't, all those things that kind of we worry about well, I don't have any kids, but I can imagine like parents worrying, making sure they always know where their kids are, not getting too close to danger. That was really not part of the DNA in my family. It was like, just go out, do stuff and, try not to get hurt. But if you get hurt, that's just part of the journey. So a lot of by the time I got to Tanzania, my whole family took up motorbiking or like motocross. So my brother, me, and my dad and I were never like, we enjoyed riding, but we didn't, we weren't trying to like get super good at doing jumps and stuff. My brother, my brother's adopted from Kenya at that point. So he joined our family when he was 2 years old. And at this point, he's, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14, something like that, when we started biking. And we had neighbors. Well, they weren't neighbors. They were friends that, maybe 15 minutes away that had a whole motocross track in their backyard. Basically, they were this Danish family that just the dad was obsessed with motorbikes.
Nice.
So we would go over there almost every weekend and just ride around the track, or we would go up, back roads. We lived very close to a mountain. I can't remember the name of the mountain right now, but it was like literally in our backyard. So go up the trails of that mountain, even to the point where we would start motorbiking to school and back too, like as a high school student, which technically not legal because the bike can't have any plates, but also cops couldn't figure out how to stop us. So then, we
Dip
would
off
always,
into a field and
yeah, we were
you'll
just
get away from
zipping
them.
down the roads. If you pass the police, they literally don't even try to stop you because you can just like, you know, cut off into a dirt road or literally just turn around and zip off the other way. So, it was a very, very free feeling childhood now that I think back to it. And a lot of just make up what kind of fun you want to do. And you're going to be able to do that basically.
And is that organization your dad works for one of those organizations where you like sponsor a child?
Yeah, that's part of it. So you can sponsor a child. His main focus was with working with poor communities to learn agricultural techniques. That was, I mean, he had a lot of focuses, but that was one of the main ones. So teaching communities how to basically have a sustainable like agricultural system so they can have crops all year long. Like how do you store water? How do you get the water irrigation system going? Because dry seasons are a real thing over there. Like it rains pretty hard for a very short period of time in the year, and then it's dry, at least where we lived, for most of the year. So he was very, it was kind of like, I guess, community development or business development within more local communities on how to create a more sustainable life, essentially.
I really
modernizing
like
their processes.
Yeah, I love that. My wife and I actually sponsor a child. That's why I was asking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we sponsor a 4-year-old little boy. He's not from that area. He's from Bangladesh actually, though. He's a 4-year-old little boy named Samuel. He's the cutest little thing.
That's awesome. Is that through World Vision or through a different
Compassion
organization?
International is who we go through. Yeah. So we get to, he writes us letters, and we pay, something every month, and we get to send him Christmas presents. And, there's certain things that he can and can't have based on the country he's in, but, like he'll send us letters like written in crayon and stuff. That's
very cool.
And they have translators that translate the letters to English for us so that we can see, but you can like see his little writing and stuff that he's learning and stuff. He's such a cool little kid. I hope I can meet him one day, but I absolutely love that because we have a connection with that. My wife and I do that. So I want to fast forward in time a little bit. Everyone kind of knows at this point, anybody that's followed you knows that your big kickoff was that claymation video, that first video you did. So my question though is what brought you to that point to do that? Because it doesn't sound like you were kind of on this path really at all before then.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to what I was saying, where the way that I grew. So, growing up in Africa, whether it's my own family or friends, like hair and style is not at the forefront of our conversations, pretty much ever. Like no one cares, and that's also a very freeing feeling in itself when I think back. Like people are genuinely just, there's no prejudice against the way you look or dress or anything like that. It's not about that at all, right? It's just like getting along with good people. So there's not that superficial layer. It doesn't always have to be superficial, right? But like I think growing up or being in the States, people are much more into their looks. It's great if you can use that in a way to kind of boost your confidence, but it can also be something that people might judge, right? That's just the reality of kind of the culture that we're in over here.
There's a little more pressure to put yourself together every day when you're going out.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just not the case, right? But what I did love in my last few years of high school was YouTube. I would watch YouTube all the time. And this was like around the time when YouTube was very early on. So I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Guy and the...
What's that?
Like the Numa guy and the sneezing panda and the...
Yeah, like all that
lightsaber
stuff,
kid.
Right? Yeah. And then Smosh. Are you familiar with Smosh?
Oh yeah.
Smosh.
Yeah. I met those guys at YouTube Collab Camp in LA once.
Oh, cool.
I had no idea who they were until somebody told me that those are the Smosh guys. I was like, oh.
Yeah, there was such a small group of creators back then who were really like figuring out YouTube as they go along. And I just found it so entertaining for whatever reason. I would much prefer to watch YouTube over TV or movies. There was a creator called Niga Higa as well. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him, but he was the biggest YouTuber for a long time. I don't even remember what year. This was like probably 13, 14 years ago, something like that. And he would do little skits, right? And another YouTuber called Tobuscus back then, who would do different vlogs or video game commentary or skits and whatnot. And I just found it so entertaining. And I realized pretty quickly that I wanted to be doing something along those lines. But I never really intended or thought it would become a career. It was just a lot of fun. I was into photography at the time. So I had just bought like my first Nikon camera, which was like this chunky, before the mirrorless cameras that we have now.
Yeah.
and I was taking photos at school all the time, and just recording. I started recording like little really cringy skits with me and my brother that I would script throughout the week. And I probably have like 50 or 60 videos on a non-existent channel anymore that I started in high school. I think I probably had that channel for like maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And by the end of that, I had like 150 subscribers over those 2 years. And none of that even mattered. It was just really fun to put those videos together. Like,
Yeah.
I was the type back then, nothing could embarrass me. So like a lot of kids talk about how, and maybe this is changing now because so many kids do want to become YouTubers, but back then, like if a kid was like, yeah, I'm uploading videos to YouTube, they'd get a lot of ridicule from their friends and be like,
Right.
what are you even doing? Like, I literally, it was impossible to embarrass me. So I did not have a care in the world of what other people thought. And I thought what I was making was like the coolest stuff ever, even if I was the main one that was entertained. But my friends would watch it, people in school and my parents. And that was kind of the time period where I was learning how to use a camera, how to use editing software. Not condoning it, but I think I had like pirated editing software at the time.
Oh, we all did. We all did.
I was there for a time myself. Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to do what you got to do
Gotta do
when
what you
you're
gotta
starting
do.
out.
When you're young, you don't have any money. Yeah, you gotta figure out a way.
Yeah, exactly. It was some editing software by Sony, like Sony Vegas Pro or
Vegas.
something like that.
Sony was Vegas. Yeah, I started on a Nikon as well. My granddad was a photographer, and I sold Nikon was all I knew, and they were bulky as hell too.
They were, but also back then Nikon was kind of like the camera to go to.
It was
Sony
like
kind of
the Lexus.
Sony is now the one, or sometimes some people like Canon, but Nikon at that time was like that was the camera.
Yeah.
So really that, during that period, that's when I learned how to use a camera. I learned how to start talking in front of a camera. I learned how to start doing editing. It was all very basic, but I was so into it and having fun with it that it really gave me the tools I needed to set me up for later, even though I didn't know what later was, right? So that's kind of where my interest in YouTube started. And then when I graduated from high school, I went to live with my aunt and uncle in Washington, D.C. for my gap year before going to university in the UK. So the plan there was, at this point, I had never had any like real work experience, like earning money through a job or anything like that. So I was 18, turning 19, and I went to live with them. And my job was split between babysitting their kids, so my cousins, and working at a toy store called Doodle Hopper in Washington, D.C.
I remember you talking about the toy store job in the past in a video or something. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, and to this day, that's my only like retail work experience that I've had.
Seems like a fun job, though.
It was fun, but I could never remember where anything in the store was. People would ask me, what toys do you recommend for the kids? I could remember the toys, but it was so hard for me to keep track of where stuff was. But I had a good time with the employees there, and it was fun. It was needed for that period of time.
Yeah.
But that was also like my first time living in the U.S. as pretty much an adult, still very young adult, but I was 18 at this point, and I started. I mean, backing up a little bit, I did start caring about my hair a little bit towards the later years in high school, but I had no idea what to do with it. I would buy. I don't remember the exact name of the product, but it was one by Garnier. Do you guys know that brand? I don't even know if they're still around.
Yeah, they are Garnier Fructis, I think they're called.
Yeah.
My little brother would use them like a spray gel. It was like his favorite thing. It was like a spray-in gel made by them. He loved it.
Right. Yeah. Mine was a paste, and it was like called maybe like Surf Hair or something like that. And it was my absolute favorite product too. It was also like one of the only ones that I knew or had tried. But just grab a glob, probably didn't even emulsify it properly, and just like go crazy in my hair. So I had like bird nesty hair for the last couple of years of high school.
Yeah.
And that was all I really knew. But then when I came to the U.S. is when I started to really want to know what to do with it a little bit more. I'm trying not to be too tangenty, but what I've learned with my personality as well is I get very, very into things for short periods of time. I have not necessarily an addictive personality, but an obsessive personality.
Yeah.
So if there's something that my brain decides it wants to be interested in, I will like dive deep into that until I feel satisfied, and then I might just drop it and never touch it again.
Like fidget spinners.
Like that's a very prime example, which I was going to get to, but
oh man,
I remember like the first one I think for some reason was colognes, and this was when I was in high school and living in Africa, so I didn't even have access to these things. I think I would just research like the notes online and watch a bunch of different reviews, even though I could never actually have one. I got really into ukuleles as well for a short period of time.
That's so random.
There's never a connection between these things.
Yeah, I could have taken 3 guesses, and ukulele would never have been my next guess.
Didn't see that one coming. All right.
Yeah, I don't understand where it comes from, but these things they pop out of nowhere.
I've had similar. My wife's gotten not upset, but she's just like, "What the hell? Why are you picking up on those?" We've got similar tendencies with that. Like at one point, I wanted to learn how to make chainmail just for no reason whatsoever. I was just bored one day and wanted to learn how to like even like spin the spool out to make the chain. And I've got a whole bunch of that sort of stuff. I've painted, music, and I do the same thing like you're saying. You like deep dive into something, and then when you're done with it, you're like, the hell was I doing that for? Now I'm interested in something else.
Right. Yeah.
Forget that thing.
I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I don't know, if you got some of that or if that's part of it, but
I was diagnosed. As an adult, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So
I think that explains it. The thing. I think it is. I think that's where it comes from.
There's the tie. All right.
I wasn't ever diagnosed with that, but I am a licensed mental health therapist, so that I can relate to you guys on that front. I can also relate on the random hobbies. I'm actually sitting to the left of me right now is a very large Charizard Pokemon card collection that I started getting into about 3 months ago. Just 3 months ago, just about 90 days, and I've got about 40. So I'm like in the middle of this manic episode when it comes to Charizards right now.
Right. Yeah. No one knows where this stuff comes from, but hey, whatever keeps us occupied and interested, right?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So yeah, I learned all about there was like 4. I can't even remember, it was so long ago, but like the different categories of ukuleles, the best ones. I ended up getting like a really cheap one, learned like 2 songs, and then that was the end of my ukulele craze. And I still have one that I've had for probably 10 or 11 years, but it just sits in the corner of my bedroom.
Can you play those songs still?
Yeah, I could probably play it if I practice for a couple minutes. I'd have to remember.
Well, there's a future video idea for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a Facebook video of me playing with my dad back in high school.
Oh, nice.
Because my dad knows how to play guitar. But anyways, moving on from that. So hair ended up being the next thing when I was in the U.S. And so I remember. So I think this was 2014. I think was my first video. It was either late 2013 or early 2014. And I was doing as much research as I could on YouTube. Back then, the men's hair and grooming and style space was so small. Mm-hmm. And I remember back then, Hans de Foucault was one of the most prominent hair products on YouTube at the time. Being talked about by the Danish twins, Slick Hair TV, mm-hmm. Jordan O'Brien. I remember he was making a couple videos about them and even making videos with Hans de Foucault, I think in San Francisco.
Yeah, I love that guy.
I thought he was like the Dre Drexler was doing a couple of them. Yep. And I thought they were just the coolest guys ever. I remember watching.
100% are. They 100% are the coolest guys.
Yeah. I mean, no, exactly. But like, this is me coming from a point where like I was just a major fan. During this period of time. And so I realized, or I was, doing research, and I saw that Hans DeFuco had just released Claymation,
Yep.
and there was no videos on it on YouTube at the time. So I decided
Wow.
I'm going to buy the product and be the first person on YouTube to review Hans DeFuco Claymation. So talk about the niche of the niche, right? Like, I don't know who's even looking for that, but that's what I was interested in doing. I was also excited to try this cool premium brand that I had been watching for a couple months at this point. So again, I wanted the product, whether the video was going to do well or not.
Claymation was a great product too. I mean, that can't just be overlooked. I remember the first time I got it too. It was like, oh my gosh, like eyes are opening now.
Game changer.
Yeah, total game changer for me. I remember using it for the very first time. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah, and it was so different too with how, because Claymation, and even when we came out with our now called heavy clay,
Cavalier, yeah.
Yeah, there's a learning curve to it, right? Like, it is quite a thick product. It takes time to emulsify. It's not a very user-friendly product for people who don't know much about hair products or just want like a quick fix.
Right.
But that was part of the lure for me too. I really wanted to, understand how to make the most out of this product, and it made me realize like there was a lot that I needed to learn about my hair. But every time I had questions and I was looking for the answers, I just didn't find them. Like, they didn't exist at the time, at least not in a very consumable way where all the information is just given to you, without having to go to a bunch of different places. So I started to realize pretty quickly, like, if I could figure this stuff out, I bet there's a lot of guys who have the same questions that I do. There's probably a lot of guys who want to know, like, how do they style their hair? How do they use products? How do they get a cool haircut? How do they use a blow dryer? What, like, the best way to do this or that?
Yeah, you were really one of the first. I remember I started YouTube in 2015, January of 2015, which is incredible. I'm a couple of weeks from my 10-year anniversary on YouTube, which is just
Wow.
coming up here January. But I remember you being one of the first people that I remember anyway saying, like, it's okay to be a dude and use a blow dryer. I don't know if you remember that, like, back when we first started. If you were a guy using a blow dryer, you were the guy doing too much. Like,
right.
Girl, I heard that so many times. Blow dryers are for your girlfriends. Blow dryers are for your sisters. Like, why are you using a blow dryer? And we're like, because it works.
It's just a tool in the toolbox.
Yeah,
exactly. It's so interesting to see kind of that cultural shift, especially now, because it's so much more. It's almost normal, right? I think there's obviously still way more guys that don't than do, but like, it's much more common now.
Yeah, the stigma has definitely lifted, I think, on the blow drying thing, and even on the styling thing. Is it because, I mean, quite honestly, it used to be, what was that word they used to call guys?
Metrosexual.
Yeah. They used to throw that around or something. I still don't understand that.
Just because you combed your hair that day.
Just because you combed, just because you gave a crap about what you looked like. It was some kind of insult or something.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, it's
stupid.
so illogical, like, to think back at, like, hating on guys for trying to take care of themselves, because ultimately they're probably going to attract a better girl than you are.
Yeah. There you go.
If that's what they're trying to do,
or get the better job, or
right.
Sell the thing that they're trying to sell, whatever it may be, just trying to have a professional appearance. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, my granddad used to say, you take care of yourself, not just for yourself, but for the person who has to look at you all day. That's what
I like that.
Yeah, that's what he was big on that. My granddad gets a haircut like once a week, and it's a thing. It's a lifestyle for him, and so that's part of why I do it, just because it was ingrained in me. But so, what happens after you upload that Claymation video? Does it immediately take off, or is it a slow burn?
So, no, I think I was so convinced that I was onto something, whether it was, I think that just being naive or just like excited by this idea of just making content and having more people than my high school friends watch it. I remember going to a bunch of different channels and, either hair related or style related, and being like, hey, if you guys want to check out this new review, check it out. I just uploaded this video. So I was spamming, I was that annoying guy spamming other people's YouTube videos, trying to get their viewers to come and watch my video. I'm sure I did it to the names I'd said. I probably did it to Dre and Jordan and whoever else. And then I posted it in the Hans de Foucault Facebook group as well. I think the day I uploaded it. So I'm assuming I've never fully confirmed this, but I'm assuming that's how they found that video, because they reached out to me the day after that uploaded.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was the very next day. And that video had, I don't know, 10 views, 15 views.
Really? It wasn't, I've always thought that it was just like an immediate smash where it like took off.
No. It was not like that. Maybe I had a couple subscribers by the time they reached out.
Wow.
So it was the first video was definitely not a banger, and it took a little bit of time. But David, who's the CEO of Hans de Foucault, reached out to me, said he really liked the video and wanted to fly me out to San Francisco to make like a more professional video with them.
How did that feel?
That was crazy, because he was talking about making a video with me and Jordan O'Brien, and I was like, Jordan O'Brien was like, I was like his biggest fan at the time, right? So I was like, all of a sudden I'm getting thrown into this group of people that I've been watching for months, and it felt surreal. Even Daniel Alfonso,
I love that guy.
Yeah. So and he was uploading videos as well. So all of a sudden I went from like watching, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that much time, because I'd only discovered these guys for a couple months. It's not like I've been fans of them for years.
Yeah.
But I was very into the stuff that they were doing, and all of a sudden I was going to be thrown into the mix of, creating content with these guys. So it was definitely very surreal, and it was once I actually got it took a couple months for me to get out there. But it was definitely very nerve-wracking as well, because this was like my first time.
I was going to ask that. I know my first YouTube trip was that collab camp I mentioned, and I was awkward as hell the whole time. I was sitting next to people that were like literal YouTube stars, and I'm over here with nothing compared to what they're doing, and I just felt so out of place. But they were all very welcoming people. Like they were seriously some of the kindest people. So, but I probably was harsher on myself than anybody around me was. So how did you feel? You like you said, you go from these people you watch, now you're in the middle of it with this major brand. Were you nervous? Were you going crazy? Were you chill? What were you like?
I mean, I was definitely trying to come across as chill as possible, but I was definitely nervous.
Yeah.
Because we made the Garage Cuts video, which is still up on the channel.
Yeah, I watched that several times.
And that's a video where Daniel cut my hair and cut Jordan's hair, and then styled it with Hans de Foucault products. And it was just a very surreal experience. And I remember like David asked me, because the beginning of that video opens up with me talking a little bit about like why I was drawn to Hans de Foucault or something along those lines. And I remember being very nervous, kind of stuttering through that. And even when I watched the video back, like I tried playing as cool as possible, but there was a little bit of shivers in my voice, So it was, but yeah, I think I was out there for a couple days, and I remember too. So I was 19 at this time. I was underage, and in terms like not being able to go to a bar or anything like that. But Daniel was adamant about trying to get me into this bar. So we went with him and David and Jordan, who I think was 21 at the time. And he's like, Daniel's like, yeah, don't worry. Like if the bouncer asks anything, I'll just say he's with me. I'm like, okay. I'm like freaking out. So we get up to the door, and the bouncer's like, "Do you got your ID?" And I'm like, "Oh no, like I forgot it." And Daniel's like, "Yeah, he's with our group. It's fine." And then the bouncer asked me, "When's your birthday?" And I froze. And he was like, "Yeah, that's what I thought," because I couldn't think of the birthday to like match me with 21.
Oh,
so
no.
Whoops.
Didn't make it in there, but we ended up going somewhere else. And overall, it was a really great experience.
Yeah, I mean, you live in LA now, right?
Yeah, I live here now. Well, that was San Francisco where we went.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah. That was San Francisco. But yeah, so after that, I just kept making that. That was like we made that video, but it didn't come out for a while after that. So even though that was a cool experience, it wasn't what got my channel going. At least not immediately. So I went out, I did all that, came back, and just kept making videos in my bathroom, trying out different products. I was still broke at this time, so I'd go to CVS, buy products, test them out, and then return them because I couldn't afford to keep.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, you
Wow.
could. CVS's return policy was pretty good, at least back then.
Wow.
But it reached the point where I had to like try to go to CVS when the same worker wasn't working because of how frequently I was trying to return products. So I was trying to make sure I was not running into the same guy checking me in and out every time.
So they weren't sending, companies weren't sending you stuff yet, even at that point?
No, this was still like I think I was probably making videos for about 3 months before things started taking off.
Oh wow. Okay.
So how many subs do you think you had at this point then on your channel?
Maybe like 30 or 40.
Okay, yeah, that's probably why they're not sending you stuff just yet.
Yeah. So my real YouTube breakout was Slick Hair TV. Slick Hair TV. After I was making videos for a couple months, at least it feels like that. I don't remember the exact time frame. I remember just like everyone wanting things to go faster than they were, right? But also not expecting it to. It was a weird place that I was in because I wasn't doing it trying to become like famous or have a job from it, but at the same time I was like, this would be really cool if it happened. So I was making the videos because I was having fun, and a couple of people were watching. I was getting a couple of comments, and that was cool. And then Slick Hair TV reached out and invited me to make a couple of videos for their YouTube channel. So they're probably still up there too, but there's full-length Blumaan featured videos that Slick Hair posted straight to their channel. And that first video that was posted, I think they had like maybe 400,000 subscribers at that time. They were the biggest, for men's hair.
Yeah.
And after that first video, that's really what got the ball rolling for me. So I think I went from getting like 3 to 4 subscribers a day. After that video, I think I got 800 subscribers in a day. And then it kind of averaged out to close to maybe 100 subscribers a day after that. And then they featured me a couple more times, and that would keep bumping it. But that was the real start to gaining some traction on the Blumaan channel, was thanks to the Slick Hair twins.
And how was that for you? Was that motivating for you to see? I know it was for me. I never achieved the traction that you got, but even the small amount of traction I got would just motivate me to go make the next video. That's what I just was like, I need to make another video. I got 10 subscribers today. I need to make another video. That's how it was for me.
100%. It was very motivating. It made me just want to keep learning more and more. And just a quick point that I forgot to touch on was when I did that video with Hansafuku in San Francisco. That's when Daniel gave me my first undercut haircut. And then I thought that was the coolest haircut of all time. That was another, which ended up being a cool haircut for a number of years. And now it looks ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know.
Trends come and trends go.
I still
Trends
like
change,
it. Yeah, trends come and go. I still like it. I think it was like it's nothing to be embarrassed about. There were some people that really couldn't pull it off and looked like a paintbrush, but I think yours looked really good.
I don't know. If I look back, I feel very paintbrushy looking at some of my old videos, because I got so much length up top because of how thick my hair is. Look, I don't regret anything, right?
Yes.
But that was like a moment in time. It's a time, that hairstyle is a time capsule of the Blumaan history.
Yeah.
But yeah, that haircut that he gave me was another thing that kind of unlocked the next, I don't know what it was, but it unlocked that next like interest in getting to know more about hair, because it was the first time that I felt like I had such a cool haircut and didn't even know that my hair could do that or that it would look good with that haircut. And it made me realize like there's so many other guys who have so much more potential than they realize with their head of hair.
Right.
So that was a very motivating factor for me, because it was like, for me, I was like, wow, like my hair looks so cool. I didn't even know it could look this cool. So many other guys don't realize how cool their hair could look.
And how you
Until
feel,
they,
how you feel when you have that. Like we talked about
yeah,
this in the last podcast, Steve. Remember, like the reason for doing this is, you know, you step out and you know you look good, your hair's on point, the outfit is where it needs to be, and you feel like you could take on anything at that point. That's a big motivator for why I do what I do, and I know it's for Steve as well. So I can see that in a lot of your work too. You're trying to bring that out of you know, anyone that's watching your content.
yeah. I think I want guys to realize that, and you know, it's our motto to this day is um, be the best version. Wait, what is it again? I forgot my own motto. Um, be the best version of yourself or something like that. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I usually have it locked and loaded, but it slipped my mind. But essentially, you know, you have potential that you can unlock to be the best version of yourself. That's what it is. And that's really what motivated me is when as I was starting to learn these things and feeling like I was upgrading not only how I looked, but the way that I felt, the way that I felt other people were beginning to perceive me. That was a huge motivating factor for me to want to share this knowledge or this information with others who don't even know the potential that they have, but they'll find out soon if they keep watching, you know?
Yeah. And so was there a specific moment, and since we're coming up on time, I'm going to skip ahead and kind of ask you this question in a more broad, a broad manner of subjects. Cause you have the product line and we didn't, you know, jump into the entire story about that, but everyone who's watching already knows about that. But was there a specific moment that you in your head were like, Blumaan is going to be a success?
Yeah, it was when we finally opened pre-orders for our first product. So I think
that.
this was
That was
maybe
Meraki, right?
yeah, it was Meraki. It was I think maybe I had been doing YouTube for about a year and a half or 2 years at this point. I had started university now in the UK, and I was making some money from YouTube, but I was still treating it more as a hobby than as a real career. And I was studying television and radio at the same time. Sorry, there's a siren. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Actually,
These are
no,
good mics
no.
then.
Yeah, no kidding.
And at that time, my now business partner, Ben, who lived in Canada, reached out to me. Like you said, we're running out of time, so I'm trying to speed this up a little bit. But he reached out to me and asked if I ever thought about starting a hair product company. I didn't know this guy. He just emailed me. And I agreed to get on a Skype call with him. And I said, you know, I've thought about it, but I don't really know how to, and I don't really have the time right now. I'm in university. Again, having fun making these videos, but not thinking of it really as a career. And he basically said, well, I think I could help out with that stuff. I could figure out how to do it and, you know, create the time or take on the work to get this thing going. So I was like, all right, let's try it out. And I end up flying out to meet him in Canada and living at his grandmother's house for the next month and a half of summer break. And so we literally worked every single day of trying to get this formula going, getting revisions. We're just learning on the go. We have no idea what we're doing. But we're starting to, you know, put the story together. We're asking the community at the time, what are they looking for in a hair product? What do you think the most important thing is? And so we land on this formula and we end up pre-launching. So Ben, I think, put in $1,000 or something like that to like start the R&D process, but he was 22 at the time. He didn't have any money either. So we really, and as you guys know, there's MOQs, right? When you're trying to order products, there's a minimum order quantity. Right. And so we didn't have the money to place that. So we decided to do a pre-launch. And then I think as soon as we opened pre-launches, we raised, I think it was around $150,000 in the first week of pre-launch sales.
I'm a little embarrassed.
When I saw that,
that's promising.
I'm a little embarrassed to say how many I got. I mean, do you remember, Joe, how many I ended up with after you guys first launched? It was a pyramid of Meraki's.
Oh yeah, you know, you were probably like a good quarter of that or something.
I think I had 16 tins when you guys
Oh my
launched.
God.
I'm pretty sure.
Why
I
did you buy so many?
I think I just wanted to contribute. Like I just, I was like helping out here and there with certain things, and I wanted you guys to like me. I think that's what it was. So I just bought a ton. I was trying, that's my weird way of making friends.
That's really funny. Well, you bring up a good point too, because when I think back, like the community that had grown around Blumaan, or the viewers that were watching me and supporting were just so kind and patient.
Yeah.
And we had a relatively large audience, but like still compared to a lot of YouTubers out there, it was on the modest side. But so supportive, and I don't think I realized how supportive they were until we did that pre-launch.
Yeah.
Did you have any expectations on how much, or what was your goal that you were trying to raise? I mean,
Man,
150,000.
I didn't
That's
have any goals at this time. I didn't know. I didn't even think about it. I was like,
so just 150,000 just rolled in, like you said, from the kind of just the kindness and generosity of your followers and your subscribers.
yeah,
That's mind-boggling. The fact that they trusted you enough
yeah.
to, because I mean, I'm assuming like it's pre-orders. We haven't even had the stuff made yet. So
Well, that's the thing too. This is why I say that my audience was very patient, more patient than they should have been. Because I think after we did that pre-launch, it probably took a good 6 to 8 months for them to actually get the product in hand. Like
It did.
way longer than it should have taken. But we were doing this for the first time. We had no idea what we were doing and trying to figure it out as we go. So, we realized after that, probably no more pre-orders. I don't think we did another pre-order, at least for a new product, after that. But people were like, I don't have memory of people being upset that they had to wait that long. I'm sure a couple people were, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Having to wait for that long is annoying, but people were along for the ride and excited to get the products when they were ready.
I still have actually on my lid wall here somewhere. I've got all the
original one.
Yeah, the original one is somewhere on this wall. You guys have changed it several times. I've got like the original one that was black and white, and then you guys had I think one that was like blue too.
Yeah. The two different versions of original with the handwritten, and that logo. So this logo right here, the written one, was made by someone in our university as well.
Oh, no kidding.
And the one that I went to.
You haven't really changed that logo much at all over the years, had you?
No, up until
the new look.
Yeah. So this was it for the longest time, up until, of course, now we got the square stuff and just a little bit more modern and simplified. But back to your question, it was that moment of launching and realizing we actually have a hair product company. That was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go all in, and I ended up dropping out of university about a year and a half into it. So dropped out. That was pretty great as well, because I still was living in student accommodation, which costs like, I don't know, $300 a month or less. Like it was so cheap, and I was still living with my student friends and like living the university lifestyle just without having to do any of the work or go to any classes. So that was a cool period of time too, because I was literally just making videos like maybe once a week, or back then I was less disciplined, so it might have been even once every 2 weeks or something like that. Making a pretty significant amount from YouTube with very little overhead or expenses. So I was like what felt like one of the richest people in the university at the time, and just living it up back then. And then reality hits later on when I realized I have to pay taxes and move to a real apartment and grow up and be a real person. But that was an exciting period for me, for sure.
It's always tough when life comes and hits you in the face.
Yeah.
So we've got a little, since we're right up on time now, we've got a little tradition here on the podcast where we invite our guests to share something that might be coming soon, something in the pipeline, little secret maybe you can reveal. Is there anything you want to drop for the audience?
A little secret, huh? I didn't get this pre-approved, so I gotta be careful.
Uh-oh.
But
put them in hot
no,
water.
I can share. I mean, we're constantly at Blumaan. I think we're one of the slowest to come out with products compared to new brands. And a big part of that is because we're so we're so careful with our R&D process, and we go through so many different revisions.
Right.
And we really want to get it as close to right as possible. So we're notoriously slow with product releases, and we're trying to work on that and get a little bit quicker. But we do have a couple of things coming up. One of the ones, and I can't touch too much on it, but we are working on a texture powder with a bit of a spin. So it's a texture powder that doesn't look like your normal texture powders, and
Cool.
it does something a little bit different. And this is I really like kind of a unique spin on products. I don't like coming out with something that feels like it could be replaced by any other amount of products that already exist out there, which is another reason why it's kind of slow, because we want to be very deliberate with what we release and try to make it stand out in any way we can. Yeah, innovate. Yeah, exactly. So we do have a texture powder coming, but it's a texture powder with a twist. And from what I know, there's not really anything like it on the market in terms of the features and way that it looks and stuff like that. So maybe I'll leave you with that.
That's exciting.
Nice little cliffhanger there. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
that's exciting.
I'm excited to see whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for us here. Joe, do you want to leave the audience with any parting words other than that awesome little cliffhanger?
I mean, yeah, thank you guys for listening. We spent a lot of today on my background and kind of leading up to the launch of the products. Of course, a lot more has happened since then. We've got a full range of styling products, but then even on top of that, if you happen to be in Los Angeles or you plan to visit Los Angeles, we have a really amazing barbershop called Anuko, and that's actually a partnership between Blumaan and Hans de Foucault. So the people that I used to work with back when I first began are people that I'm working with now again. And it's a really amazing barbershop. We have 14 barbers now. We're open 7 days a week. Really big open space. And we've been, very careful on the barbers that join our team. Obviously, with both of our brand names being attached to this, it's definitely been a big passion of ours to have an amazing barbershop. And so, come and check us out if you're ever in Los Angeles. It's called Anuko.
It's on my bucket list for sure. I don't get out to LA very often.
Yeah, you guys can come on out too.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, no, we're gonna have to get out there soon.
Yeah, it's on my list for sure. I don't get out to LA.
Sounds like we got a part 2 in the making. If you got any time there, Joe.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, let me know.
We might
I'll be back.
We might have to do a part 2. That's what I was actually just thinking. But Joe, where do you want them to find? I'm pretty sure they all know where to find you. But just in case we got anyone new here, where's your socials? And I know you got Blumaan.com.
Yeah, Blumaan pretty much everything. So Instagram, YouTube.
Blumaan.
Yes, Blumaan. And then Anuko is Aanuko. But yeah, if you type in Blumaan onto Google, you'll be able to find me.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's all we got for today. If you want to see more from our guests, you can find them at the places they just described and linked in today's episode. You can also find more from me weekly on the channel Modern Man TV on YouTube. And from my counterpart there, you can find him at Lockhart's Pomade on Instagram and lockhartsauthentic.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.